So dudes, it's Tuhu. And no, you're not dreaming, this is an extremely rare double how-to upload from yours truly. It is the holiday season after all, so consider this a sort of Christmas gift from me if you want. I've been meaning to make this video at some point anyway, given that I've grailed her, so here's how to play everyone's favorite Yandere Berserker Queen, Morgan. Morgan is a 5-star Berserker who debuted at the release of Lost Belt 6 earlier this year, and she's a crit Zerk with the ability to buster reload with double coin Skya. In fact, she's a top tier buster reloader, having her own 50% battery and being a Zerk with an AoE MP. Add to this the fact that she's voiced by Ishikawa Yui, who voices at least one character in almost every one of my 10 gacha games, and oh no, what happened to 4, soon to be 5 of my grails? At level 90, she's got 12,440 HP, 12,193 attack, and 0.53% MP charge on attack. She's Earth Attribute and Lawful Evil, and her notable traits are Saberface, King, and Non-Hominidae Servant, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which comes up during the Tunguska raids, I think. She has a balanced deck with 3-hit busters, 3-hit arts, and a 5-hit extra. Her first skill increases the party's attack by 10 to 20% and reduces all enemies' defense by 20 to 30% both for 3 turns, and charges her own MP gauge by 20 to 30% on an 8 to 6 turn cooldown. Her second skill charges one ally's MP gauge by 10 to 20% and increases the party's MP gen by 15 to 25% for 3 turns on a 7 to 5 turn CD. Note that this is a weaker version, but otherwise the same skill as Castoria's second skill. I wonder why that is. Her third skill gives herself guts for one time that revives her with 1000 to 3000 HP, increases her star weight by 3000 to 5000%, and her crit damage by 20 to 30%, all for 3 turns. She also gives herself a regenerating buff for 3 turns that both reduces all enemies' attack by 10 to 20% and their crit chance by 10 to 20%, and it produces 5 to 15 stars, all on a 9 to 7 turn CD. Note that her regenerating buff actually applies its debuffs continuously every turn that it's active. In case you're confused by why it's worded like this, at least on the wiki, this is so that if enemies use debuff cleanses to get rid of them, Morgan just reapplies those debuffs again the next turn, so it's meant to be an enemy debuff removal counter. Her passives increase her buster performance, debuff resist, debuff success rate, arts performance, and crit chance resist, and her A3 gives her extra crit chance resist against saber enemies. And her NP is an AoE buster NP that first increases her damage against Round Table Knights or Fey enemies by 50% for 1 turn, then deals damage to them, super effective damage if they're also man attribute. It also curses them for 5 turns that deals 1000 damage a turn, and overcharges the party's MPs by 1 level for 1 time, 3 turns. Note that this overcharge effect happens after the MP does damage, so it doesn't affect her own MP the first time. If for some reason you didn't already know this, Morgan is one of the best, if not the best, buster reloader in the game, at least for the time being, again thanks to her 50% battery and the fact that she's a Zerk, so she's good against almost everything in the game. Stack those buffs and watch her nuke everything like how we nuked Britain in Lost Belt 6. However, while she is a top-tier general use farmer, she does struggle with fights that have very high HP bosses. I'd estimate anyone with around 150k HP or more on a standard double coin setup. Berserker advantage is good, but obviously not as good as true class advantage. Clearly Morgan is underpowered. Lazangle, where's her MP damage buff, goddammit? Thankfully, there are ways to have Morgan nuke Britain a lot harder if you too believe that British people are a mistake. First off, you can always just plug to another support charge like Waver or Reigns if you have her. Speaking of which, Case Files rerun is right around the corner, just saying. Second, if you're up against a 2-wave fight, or just a fight in general where you don't need Atlas Academy, bring 2k4 for the MP damage buff. Morgan gives herself a lot of attack buffs. Remember, her first skill gives her up to a 50% attack buff, and she should be getting a lot of buster buffs from Coin Light, so the last buff type she really needs for optimal buff stacking is MP damage buffs. Even better if you can give Morgan Holy Night Dinner or another CE that gives MP damage, or plug in a servant with MP damage buffs. And of course, if enemies are man attribute to begin with, that's exactly what Morgan wants so that she can go full Helsing Abridged on their asses. Third, make sure to use Morgan's crits to finish off enemies. You'll usually be using her with Coin Light anyway, who can give extra crit stars to help feed Morgan's crits. Just pray for an extra buster card on the last wave if you're going up against a particularly chunky motherfucker. But if for whatever reason Morgan isn't the ideal DPS servant to deal with the situation, remember that that she can support someone else who is. It's easy to forget with all the buster reloading that she does that Morgan has exceptionally good support skills for a DPS. Her first skill is a 50% attack buff, not just for herself, but also for her entire team. Just make sure to use it on the right wave since most of the buff is coming from the defense debuff. She also has a targetable 20% battery that she can give to another DPS if they need it, and her MP gives an extra overcharge level to the team too, which is great for any DPS with overcharges that give more damage. As a perfect example of Morgan's support capabilities, this was the optimal farming team for the Ivan raid for Tunguska. At least it would have been if the hamster squad was actually competent and didn't kill Ivan off before we could even get to him. Enjoy your 10 Saint Quartz, I guess. So rather than being just a DPS, Morgan is in reality a flex DPS who can easily help others nuke bitches as easily as she nukes them herself. And yes, it's still going to be England that they're nuking. For CEs, daily reminder that K-Scope is required for optimal buster reloading. Otherwise, use Holy Night Dinner, Aerial Drive, or another 50% CE with MP damage for plug suit reloading. And if you're feeling particularly bloodthirsty and want to watch your enemies suffer real bad, give Morgan a crit CE and watch big yellow numbers magically turn your enemy's HP values to 0 faster than you can get shanked in the streets of London. Her Bond CE increases the party's damage against Fey or man attribute enemies both by 15% when she has it equipped and is on the field. Because Morgan is a surprisingly good support, I can see a situation where you have Morgan with her Bond CE support a single target DPS to fight a man attribute enemy. The problem is that if Morgan can't deal with a man attribute enemy herself with full Koyan support, then I'm not sure who else you'd have who might have a better chance. So yeah, could be useful, but I'm having a hard time seeing a scenario where you'd actually use it. In summary, Morgan is a flex DPS who both nukes enemies and helps others nuke them too, and she's one of the best buster reloaders in the game who also has a vendetta against man attribute enemies because she just wants to watch the world burn. Wow, she's just like me, for real, for real. The poll for the next servant how-to should be up by now, so go check out the Patreon if you'd like to participate in that. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, every little bit goes a long way, and check out the stream over at twitch.tv/ToaSniper98, or right here on YouTube since I'm now dual streaming again like I used to. Thanks for watching.